It's all right. You got a family. I just get 2 dogs and sit at home all night and nerd out.
You have a girlfriend, right? You have a
Hey
kid.
everybody, welcome to the YouTube live tonight. We have our guest Dana here, and I am super excited for this guest tonight. I know that she is, and I hope you all are. And I'm going to actually be monitoring this, Dana. So what I'm going to do on this one screen, I'm going to have you and I, and then I'm going to have any comments that come in through the chat here. So let me
I'm
just.
gonna pull it up on YouTube on my other screen
Yep.
so I can see it in real time and I
Yep.
can see the comments
I've
too.
just changed the title. So for some reason, it always loads the same title, and I can't fix it. But I'm gonna change it here. So
I'm super happy to be
I
here, and I hope people come with a lot of questions.
I do too. I do too.
How do I
I'm
find it? Oh, there you are.
yeah, it's gonna say live final expense agents share their story. So I'm just gonna wait for my thing to stop freaking out here, and I'll change it there. But people will see it and join up, and I'll switch the title for it. It only really matters if they get notifications. So
Oh, okay.
before this, and by the way, guys, as you're joining, is you're more than welcome to drop any questions that you have in the chat. But Dana, while I'm doing this, why don't you fill in a little bit on what we were talking about beforehand about kind of what we find are important things for agents across the board, despite some, we things that would like in generalities that people need to be
Practices,
successful.
like
Yeah.
telesales best practices, really, because I
Hmm.
think you and I are very much aligned on a lot of stuff, and consistently we're seeing some of the same things, the same patterns that's causing agents to kind of get stuck, and a lot of it is tonality on your approach when you're making outbound calls, and not what you're saying, but how you're saying it, and really being prepared, and expect people to give you objections or concerns the minute you call. And if you're not prepared for that, then you are probably going to have a really hard time.
Yeah, 100% agree. So when it comes to, because like what I've found, and I don't know about you. By the way, so we got a few people on right here. If you guys have any questions, hi, how do you generate leads? That's
Didn't I know that was the first question that someone was going to ask?
yeah, Alex, that's great. That's funny. That's funny you say that. So Alex, what we're going to talk about some sales stuff here, and I'd be more than happy to answer that question. That's a very that's more than a YouTube live question.
That's like a whole other live.
That's like a whole day. So you can check out a lot of
I mean, I can
content on my
tell you a
channel.
lot of our leads come directly from Lincoln, Lincoln Heritage, so it's not something that's duplicatable, and
Yeah,
that's a
exactly.
yeah, totally different conversation.
Yeah, for sure. So in my system that we have, we sell a few different carriers. Dana, she works with Lincoln Heritage, so they sell one carrier. So the cool thing about that, and that's what we want to get to at some point where we're our own carrier, is that the marketing can match the pitch. So if you call or you're marketing online for that company, and then that's the carrier, it just makes it like it's a little bit smooth, a little bit more. Lincoln Heritage is a big name and more popular. But Alex, check out the videos on my channel on how to generate leads.
He has a lot of them. A
Yeah, a
lot
couple.
of them. But yeah, any other sales related questions, Alex, or anyone else?
Yeah, and we're going to be discussing some things. And as we go through, if anything comes to mind related to sales, I'm going to put this in the chat too. So if anything comes to mind related to um, sales and objections and mindset questions, please feel
So when you're
free
done
to.
typing that, I'll start off with a question for you, because I think both of us, like I was saying before we went live, we have some different perspectives on how we address the concerns or the objections in the first 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So, how do you teach your team to respond to, I don't have time?
Hey, no worries. It's just my job to get you all this information in the shortest amount of time possible so that you can make a decision whenever you're ready. Or there's a few different things that I have people say so that if they say one thing and then they can't and then it doesn't work for them, then they can just keep going, right? Um, Another one is like, uh, hey, I hear that all the time. I actually love working with busy people because busy people typically make decisions. Look, I'm pretty busy too. Or it's just like just a quick agreement. There's a few different responses I have for people to say.
The
But
one that seems to work for us really well is just first agreeing with them, like, yeah, that's not a problem. You'll notice like a lot of my initial responses to things are, yeah, that's not a problem, or yeah, that's not uncommon. I guess, do you have just a few minutes right now just to see if what we do can even help, and if it even makes sense for us to call you back later? Right? So we're kind of acting as if they're going to get rid of us. But then usually we can engage them well enough to end up keeping them on the phone, and then all of a sudden 45 minutes later we're writing an application.
awesome. So run through that again for people to hear it again.
I say I teach the team how to say, yeah, that's not a problem. I guess, do you have just a few minutes right now, just to see if I can even help, and if it even makes sense for me to call you back later.
Awesome. Cool.
They're like,
I
yeah,
that.
I have a few minutes. Usually it works for the ones that say I don't have time.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna have my people implement that. Now, if they keep pushing back and they're like, no, I really don't. Like, I'm pretty busy. How do you have them do?
I mean, where we have the mentality where we're just trying to figure out if it's a false objection, right? We don't try to push people into something if they're really at work and they're busy, because then they're not going to be focused to hearing the information anyways. But if we can get them to say, okay, if we can get that permission to engage, then even that short amount of time we do have, they're going to be listening the entire time. But if they say, I don't really have time, and we just keep pushing, I think that's going to cause more sales resistance and end up not probably going well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I get that.
But it can work either way. I think that I just have a softer, maybe like a softer approach, but not like that. Yours is good.
Oh, no, I know. I mean, I love what you said there, because it's just kind of agreeing, and then if they keep giving pushback, then I like to have people say, hey, I get it, and that's totally cool. Is life insurance something that's been on your to-do list, or is a burial plan something that's been on your to-do list? I found that gets a pretty good result, rather than saying, are you interested in getting this, or have you been, or like, is this something that's important to you?
Yeah, that's a really good follow-up thing to say. You may still end up having to schedule that follow-up call, but it's another way for you to figure out if this person is really wanting to talk to you.
For sure. That's awesome. That's huge. Guys, as you're watching this, if you just want to drop a question in the chat for myself or Dana, and full disclosure, Dana is better at sales than me. So any question, like, I'm gonna just let her take it out of the park here, because I know she is. I'm just a bulldozer. I'll just call a million people, and I'm like, as long as I have enough leads to talk to, I'll make money. Dana's like the sharpshooter sniper for sales.
So. Volume of leads is super important. I'm never going to deny that. In fact, if you're going to do telesales, you have to have a volume of leads. But that philosophy for me is because you're going to get a low answer rate. So you have to work the numbers as far as being able to talk to enough people simply by who's going to answer the phone. When someone answers the phone, then it's all about getting through that first 10 to 15 seconds. And then after that, if you can develop any sort of interest, there's no way it's not going to result in a sale unless they can't qualify or they don't have a bank account.
That's awesome. Cool. So the next one here, we have good question to really get the why out of them. Sometimes it's a lot of, well, I have coverage. I don't know. I was just looking. I already got this taken care of. So how do you handle that?
Is there anywhere I can see it? Because I didn't really get the full question. Can I see the question on this?
It's just thing? No, because it's on my but if you join the live from your phone, yeah. It was essentially.
Okay, I'll do it from my phone so I can mute the audio. But yeah, can you just repeat the question again?
Yeah, it's just pretty much if someone says I already have insurance, how do you handle that?
So when someone says, so I'm going to just read it right from my script. So I always start with, yeah, that's not uncommon. Or other ways that you can say it would be, I'd be surprised. Like, I think, Justin, you teach, I'd be surprised if you didn't, right? Or you're 10 steps ahead of most people. But I typically say what's comfortable for me is, oh yeah, that's not uncommon. If you don't mind me asking, because I don't want to assume, what caused you to fill out the inquiry form to get some protection in the first place? And that will allow me to see if they just recently got it, if they've had it for a long amount of time. Just kind of like feel the waters out, but I always want to know why they inquired. So that's great. I mean, that's not uncommon. If you don't mind me asking, because I don't want to assume, if you already have insurance, what caused you to fill out the inquiry form to get some additional protection.
Awesome. Cool. And
Doesn't matter if they have insurance already. I think that's fantastic. That means they're already a buyer.
yeah, I agree. It's like, hey, it's like you pay your bill and you believe in insurance. Like my
Yeah.
favorite.
I don't see how I don't see how I can do it on my phone.
It's okay. I can read them to you.
Okay.
So Anderson Jones said, recommend amount of internet leads weekly, as many as you can afford.
Yes,
I mean,
I agree.
yeah. I
As
mean,
many as you can afford. 1,000,000%. I mean, I don't know. Do you know what your answer rate is right now? Have you tracked that?
20%, I think.
That's what he's saying?
No, mine is. Oh,
Person who
you're
asked.
asking. Yeah, he probably wouldn't I mean, Anderson, I don't know if you're tracking your answer rate. Anybody watching, drop some questions. Dana's going to be dropping some bombs on here. She, any
So
sales
depending
related
on what your
questions.
answer rate is, right? You want to be in a position where you can have at least a minimum of 3 to 6 conversations a day. So in order to have 3 to 6 conversations a day, how many people do you have to call in order to get them to answer the phone? And once they answer the phone, how many of those people are you going to get to engage in a conversation? It's a lot. It's a lot of leads.
Yeah. Especially
Volume
internet
is
leads.
really important for telesales.
Oh, it's huge. And 8 to 12 points of contact is 50% or better. Not sure what you mean there. But,
I know what he means there. So,
okay.
so I think what he's saying is,
Oh, yeah, I get it.
yeah, 8 to 12 attempts is where you'll get the highest answer rate, right? Between 8 and 12 contact attempts. That's definitely true. Sometimes even more than that. But yeah, 8 to 12 contact attempts, you'll see a big bump in contact rate. But you have to be organized with that, right? You have to have a system in place that's going to remind you that not only to call the leads you got today, but the ones you got yesterday and the day before that and the day before that. So that way those don't fall through the cracks while you're working on the ones that you just got. Right, Justin? I mean, I know you're
Yeah.
good with that too, with your team.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I'd recommend if you're just doing it on like independent, I would call leads that you generate as soon as they fill out the form. Like, as soon as they fill out that form, you want to be calling them. You don't want. I do that with recruiting leads. They fill out a form on Facebook, and I'm literally calling them. They're like, dude, I don't even think I hit the button yet. And
what is that statistic? Like after 5 minutes, they're like 500% less likely to answer. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's
something like that.
So you get a lot in the very beginning, and then you'll take a dip, and then it'll peak back up again.
Yeah, you just got to have that for sure. With that follow-up is huge. Another question here: can you go over how you financially qualify a prospect? So I don't really like to financially qualify a prospect. Dana, what do you do?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a huge mistake. The only thing we do is verify whether or not someone has an active checking account, but we don't do it by asking if they have an active checking account, because I think that can create some sales resistance. So what we do is, after we get through our discovery, because that helps people relax and kind of lower their walls, we let them know that we specialize working with people that are living on a fixed income. And then we ask, by the way, are you also living on a fixed income like SSI or disability? Of course, they're going to say yes. And then we say, okay, great. Does that money get directly deposited into your checking account, or does it go on a card, like a Direct Express card? Right. So we're kind of asking in like a way. So if they only have a card and they don't have a bank account, I'm instructing my agents to walk away from the business unless they have like a family member that can be the payer of the policy. But I think even someone is on a $600 or $700 a month income, they can still afford a $15 or $20 a month cremation plan, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I ask after our fact finding and structured warm up, where they kind of get to know them and just have their guard let down a little bit. What we ask is, and it's all in tone, guys. It's how you ask it, because if you ask, I find some agents ask certain questions and they get totally shut down, and other people don't, and a lot of it's how they say it. So I ask after I've built that relationship with them and I can tell they're comfortable, I say, so hey, look, Betty, now um, some of our carriers do offer discounts based on how you receive your benefits. And I don't need any specific information right now, but do you have an active checking or savings account, or do you get one of those little green debit cards that the government gives you? And that's kind of how it's say. And
So
I
what
just
do
try
you
to be.
do then if someone says they have a Direct Express card? Because that kind of leaves it open for you saying you're still okay to take it. Do you guys still take them?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's why.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what your business model is going to be on how you ask the question, because I won't take them.
I don't want to. The agency has incentives that are AP based and Direct Express counts. So, but I tell people, I'm like, don't waste your time, and because like, if they tell you got Direct Express, just like go right for the throat, like, like go for the sale. Don't spend a lot of time. We do a quick e-app and like, that's it. And I don't even like taking it. I won't even honestly, I don't even have them ask, do you have a Direct Express after? Like in the same thing, I'll just say, do you have an active checking or savings account? But you can tell, like, if you just skip and try to push through and skip steps, you're gonna get a lot of resistance there if it's like in the beginning. Like, I think a lot of people answering live transfers where they have to pay for the transfer, like, you'll want to ask that right in the beginning.
Oh, because don't they get like a buffer to
Yeah.
send the lead back?
Yeah, and not get charged.
I guess it depends on the situation, right?
Yeah, and I would just I would say it like this, like, hey, look, Betty, I know you don't know me, I don't want to waste your time or my time here, but I'm only able to help people with these plans who have an active checking or savings account. I don't need any information. Do you have one? Yes or no? If not, no worries. But if you do, we can continue the conversation. I can get you the information. Okay.
Now you're saying that's only in the event that someone's paying for a live transfer, to send it back.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure that's disclaimer, because I would never ask that in the first 30 seconds, because a lot of people are going to lie or be scared, because that's like one of the things that they're never supposed to give over the phone, right? So it like sets alarm bells off.
For sure, I agree. I wouldn't do that unless it's like, if I'm like gonna have to get billed $60 for a transfer, I'm definitely figuring that out. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do we have any other questions?
Oh yeah. Why is Dana better than Justin? No, I'm just kidding.
No one asked that.
Are you double or triple dialing your leads?
Why don't you answer first? I'll answer second.
Yeah, I have people triple dial. I know you guys' system may be a little different, but I have every agent call, ring to voicemail, hang up, call again, ring to voicemail, hang up, call again, and then once it leaves disposition, no one can call again for another 4 hours. So we legally can only call them a certain amount of times a day, and then like after that, it's done. But yeah, I have people triple dial, like
only new leads. So only brand new leads we will triple dial, and after that we will not triple dial again. So then it has a call cadence to call every so many hours.
Okay, cool. And
but we also have transfer agents calling them too. So we have a lot of hands on our leads.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the transfer agent's doing that. Next, I dial once through the list to get the easy fishes, and then triple dial back through the list. Paying for transfers is brutal. Most companies will give you 60 to 90 seconds. After the given time, you'll be billed for the transfer. Thank you for the answer. Can you walk us through how you? I'll get you in a second here, Andres. Anybody who wants to ask a question, just drop it here. But Eduardo is asking how you ask for referrals. So Dana, how do you ask for referrals?
Oh, this is a really good question, because I just went over this with my team. Here, I'm going to pull it up actually. I just went over this with my team today. We're actually talking about changing how we ask, just because I want people to have options. One of them is very specific to Lincoln, so I probably won't share that one. So this one, in full disclosure, was provided to us by Matt Ryder from Sales Sniper and NEPQ. So I've gone through the NEPQ course. Matt and Anthony have trained my team and helped me write some of the questions and referral stuff.
That's
So
awesome.
this comes from him and it's slightly modified. But when you get to the very end of the call, um, and I'll just read to you what it says. So it says, I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to help you today, Justin. Can I just ask, like in your mind, how you feel I've been able to help you the most today?
Just by helping me make sure I get this in place for my family.
Good, good. So, with that in mind, do you maybe know anyone that also might be struggling with, that worry about not having that protection and the burden of having to pass those expenses on to their family?
I don't know. Not anyone comes to the top of my head. No.
No. So then in that case, I would probably go to the beneficiaries. I would say, well, you mentioned that you have, 3 kids and you wanted to split that, equally amongst them. If something, God forbid, were to happen to your kids, do they have any protection in place, so that you or the rest of the family don't have to come out of pocket?
Cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. No, that's cool. I like that question.
What do you do?
Okay.
You just ask, give me the referrals.
No, we actually have um, a system where our main carrier, they allow us to give anyone extra $5,000 in accidental death for referrals. So we give 1,000 per referral up to 5. So what I say is we pose it like a game show. So we'll be like, hey, now, do you like game shows? And if they're like, no, then like, okay, well, I don't either, but we're playing one today anyway. And if they do, be like, what's your favorite one? They'll be like, oh, Price is Right. I'll be like, okay, well, I'm like whoever, Steve Harvey or whatever. And be like, okay, so that's me today. Now, in order for you to win the game show, no, so in this game show, you can win up to $5,000 in extra coverage that will cover your family in the event of an accident. Now, in order for me to get you one, I can get you $1,000, but to get each thousand. I don't know. There's a script. I have it like written on the script. But essentially, we're like you have to give me a name and number, and for every name and number that you give me, I can get you an extra $1,000 in coverage. So if in me translating that for a new agent or an agent, if you're independent, I would spend $5 for a referral, right? So I would say, hey, look, I'm going to send. I think every state has a different amount of money that you can send a client for something, without it being rebated. So
Yes,
like,
you can't at all.
yeah, so like Florida, I know is $20. So like yeah, you'd want to look this up. But the way I would do it, if it was Florida, I'd be like, hey, look, so I'll give you $5, a gift card with $5 on it, for every name and number that you give me, up to 4 names and numbers. Now the state of Florida will only let me do 5,000. It only let me send $20. So all I can send you is up to $20. I can send you, but I can do that, but I need 4 names and numbers from you. So, but it's not every state. I don't want anybody to get in trouble. I know Florida is $20, and after that it's rebating, and you can't do it contingent on the sale, right? So it has to be like just for the name and number.
Right. That is true.
Yeah, that's the translation, I guess, of what we do.
That's very clever. Very clever.
Yeah, it works really well in the home when someone's face to face, because they can like play like game show music and stuff. And then when you get that referral on the phone, I would call them with that person on the line right there, 3-way the call, so they can introduce you and have a warm up. Or if you don't do that, write down how they know that person, so that when you call, you have a conversation. You have a conversation started with them.
Yeah. I finally figured out how to find it on my phone, so it's here. So there's more questions.
What carriers SLS? American Amicable, Prosperity, American Home Life, and Gerber. We have a GI and Gerber. Eduardo, can you give us tips? AJ, Dana's beautiful. That's what AJ said. Eduardo, can you give us tips or best practices on how to manage a 10-hour dial day and keep good energy and avoid burnout? Oh, I know this. I got this one, but you
You're
go
the
first.
perfect one to answer that.
Cool. So I just get so fired up when I write down my goals that that's just me. I only eat fats and proteins for most of the day. So I have like kind of lower carbs. So I'll eat I eat like a lot of eggs and like bacon and stuff in the morning, and I have super energy from that throughout the day. I don't crash. And then like in the afternoon I'll have like a bunch of chicken thighs that are real fatty, and then like a low amount of carbs, and then I'll have like steak or something, or I have like high protein, low fat. That works for me. So diet's important. Everyone's different. I quit coffee like about a month ago, so I've had to
So Justin and I
maintain.
couldn't be more opposite. All right, so food is important. Got it. Number
Goals.
one, check.
Goals. Goals.
Goals.
I know my exposure is a little too high for you guys to see it, but I got my goals written down. I write down my goals, and I'm like, I want to retire my dad, and I know like every moment I'm not like going 120%. It's not. It takes me back from doing that. So like, it's not about me. And my goal is about me, about someone else, my dad, my team, and just being there. And like, I have leaders now that I'm growing, right? So when I was selling, it was just about me and my like thing there. But now, it's not even about staying motivated. Honestly, it's just having the discipline, I think, to show up every day. Because some days I don't always want to show up in work, but I do. So I don't know, Dana, what do you do?
About that. So as a sales agent, I think there was definitely a moment that clicked for me when I knew that I had just mastered the sales process. And I think knowing that no matter what gets thrown at me, I'm just like ninja chopping it away. And I'm so confident that that by itself, like that, knowing that you are so confident in your sales ability automatically is so motivating. It gets me really excited to get on the phones and speak to people because I know that there won't be defeat, right? I think one of the things that people get demotivated is because they are constantly getting the no's and they feel the defeat and they feel the burnout. But you don't get that burnout, you don't get that defeat when you're constantly winning. And the only way you can win is to be prepared and to be confident and to know exactly what you're doing before it happens. So you don't get burned out when you're always selling, right?
Yeah,
It
that's
becomes
true.
exciting.
You're right, and that's true, and that makes that's so relatable, and I didn't even think about that, and I feel sort of selfish not thinking about that, because when I started, I was just so obsessed with getting good at sales. Like that was my thing. I'm gonna get really, really good at this. I started when I sold cars. There was a guy who I had a slow start, and then I had a big month, and he was like, "Oh, lucky month," and that pissed me off so bad. I was like, "Dude, I'm gonna beat you every single month," and I did, and then that was it. But that's so true because when you're good at something, you're gonna
Yeah, when you're good
be
at
more
something,
likely.
there is no burnout. You're still gonna have like bad days, but if you just expect that it's gonna happen and you know that it's not forever, and you just continue to strive to get better, like I still don't think I know everything, even though I know a lot, right? I'm still constantly learning and trying to figure out like if something I'm noticing is consistently not working, what can we do to change it to get better results, right? You can never stop learning, ever.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
always learning from Justin.
I learned some awesome stuff today from you. That's so cool. And I'm gonna go through and watch this again and write down. I'm gonna have them use that rebuttal for if they say they don't have time or the way that you engage with people there. Someone said
Any
they have
other sales questions?
yeah.
This
Well,
is
someone said
such a unique opportunity to get us both on the phone together live. How many people
I
do we
know.
have?
Andres, yes, we can get level coverage on COPD and diabetic neuropathy, but that doesn't even matter. Like we sold a ton of insurance before we could even do that, right? Like telling you, it doesn't matter. You can the most like the people I know, most people I know who are very successful in insurance sell one carrier, and that's that. So that's I,
Just to
I
make a point on that, because that's a big question that I get, like, how successful can you be when you're only selling with one company? And by the way, Lincoln Heritage is a more expensive company, right? It's no
yeah
secret, right? But one thing I always like to remind people on is this is very obvious. I know you know this. People don't buy on price. Okay, so we get over that hump that people will buy regardless of price. But if it wasn't, if it was about price, then people would be coming from behind and rewriting all of our applications. But as a company, right, like the standard for Lincoln Heritage for persistency has to be 80% or higher, which means company wide, like we must be doing something right or we wouldn't have such a high persistency score. right? Or
Yeah.
our applications would be canceling all over the place, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, for sure. It's and persistency is really important, guys. But I'm telling you, like we have one of our agents. She's 84 years old. She writes like 5 to 10,000 AP a week, and she only writes one carrier and then guaranteed issue if they don't get approved with that carrier. That's it. She
That's
just does
amazing.
one thing. Yeah, and she has like a 75% 13-week persistency. So we measure it between. We measure it based on how many policies that you wrote are still on the books at between 13 and 26 weeks, right?
Okay.
Hers is like, because yeah, so I think if they make 3 payments, it's like a huge chance they're gonna keep it. So another question here. For outbound leads, is your first contact always a call? I hear some agents reach out with text first to thank them for requesting the info and tell them someone will be calling. Do you want to go or you want me to answer it?
You can go.
Okay. So, Tim, good question. What we do now is different than what we did when it was just me. What I did when it was just me. So when when I was running my own leads, I would have automated text messages sent out to people, make sure it's TCPA compliant, and I would
I
make
have a
sure
giggle on
that,
that.
yeah, you do, and I would have those messages go out to just nurture the lead if I was on a call or if it's some like dingbat who fills it out at like 3:30 a.m. and wants to call me off the ad at 3:30 and I don't answer, so I would have those messages go to nurture it. If I call people and they don't answer, I send them a text message, but I give them the option to communicate over text. So I wouldn't say someone's going to call you because that kind of creates some like if they didn't answer your call, it's because they don't want to talk to you. Usually, if they just did it, right? If they just did it, that's my opinion anyway. They didn't answer the phone because they don't want to talk to a stranger. So I say, hey, my name is Justin. I'm reaching about the information you requested on the state-approved burial programs or whatever your marketing says. So make sure your text matches exactly what you say in the ad. And then I'd say, would you prefer we communicate over text, email, or phone call? And then I've had many people where if they were like, oh, text, and I text them, and then I can ask them some questions to kind of build the need a little bit in that process and then I quote them and have them pick one. And a lot of times you'd think that people wouldn't be into that or it would be hard to close them, but I found people, you do get the people who just won't answer, and then you have to call them a few times to follow up. But I've had people that are just like, oh, I like the 15,000. Let me get that one. And I say, okay, well, I know I'm scary, but I'm gonna have to call you now. Is that okay? And then put like a laugh emoji, and then they're like, yeah, that's fine. And then I call them. So that's how I do that. I don't know if you have any recommendation on texting leads or anything like that.
Um, we're looking into AI right now, actually. So
Oh,
there's
awesome.
there's a lot of stuff that we're still working on behind the scenes. I
That's
can't
super
really
cool.
commit to anything yet.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Earl, what's up, Earl? Earl talked to me yesterday. I'm excited to work with you, man. That's awesome.
Hey, you're in good hands, Earl.
Calloused hands. So,
Alice hands. Yeah.
Justin, outside of your voice, what do you use as credibility so the prospect lets their guard down and avoid credibility objections? Dana.
Well, this question's coming from one of my agents. So
Oh,
why don't
okay.
you ask it? Why don't you answer it?
Oh, okay, cool, cool. What questions? What do I use as credibility so the prospect lets their guard down? Um, I find a tangential topic and this goes against a lot of stuff that I see in sales videos, but it works very well for me. I like to really keep it about them, and well, that's not against sales videos, but like I'll wait until I'm pretty good at being able to hear when someone talks about something that they want to talk about, and they may give me like a little hint at it. So like one of the last calls I jumped on, the guy was talking about something about YouTube, and because it was a YouTube lead, and I'm like, oh, you watch YouTube? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, what do you watch? And then like he spent like 7 minutes telling me about the videos that he likes to watch on YouTube, and I'm like, I have a channel, go check it out. And then he checked it out, and he thought it was like super cool, and like I guess that built credibility because he saw me, but like um, I don't know, like I like to find things that people will talk about for a little bit that I don't lie about relating to or being interested in. And I found that if someone's like, oh, I love basketball, I'm not going to be like, oh, me too. I'll be like, yeah, I don't like basketball, and I won't really talk on that. But also, I found that knowing what to say without any hesitation helps build credibility
I like
because, yeah, so like
it's
the next
to
step.
keep that confidence up. I think his question is besides your voice, right? Do you send out a digital business card? Do you
Oh,
direct them to
oh,
a landing page? Like, because what I've told my agents is I've never felt the need to really have anything else. Like, when I get to the very end of the sale, I'll send them my digital business card, but I don't feel like I need to do that in order to get the sale. So do you feel like you need to establish additional credibility other than just having the conversation?
Usually no. I mean, based on the questions I ask people to get them to want it, and then me knowing my products and my sales process and all my competitors' products, I can usually answer any question that they have and give them really quick information that they know is is valid, and that usually builds credibility. Where, yeah, that really
Right. I
helps.
think it's all in what you're saying, the type of conversation you're having, that if you feel like you need to have something else to like prove who you are, then you probably need to go back to the core of your presentation.
Yeah, that happens more, I found, with newer agents where they have that, like, I don't do business on the phone, I don't give my bank, I don't give my social. Our veteran agents don't run into that stuff. It's just,
Right. What else do we got?
thank you, Eduardo. Appreciate that. Manuel, what do you say or do to have a good follow up with clients to not bug too much?
Like if you quoted them and then they didn't buy and then you're following up.
Let's just assume that's it. Yeah, any follow up.
I do a 1, 2, 3, forget it. That's me. We have way too many, leads to call. I'm not going to chase people down. Plus, I have a pretty high one call close rate.
Yeah.
What about you?
Every agent's different. So some agents have a high one call close rate and they just won't follow up as much. I think honestly for like some newer agents, I'm like, you got to follow up with this person because I feel like in this is just me thinking of like a model of it. Like someone's certainty level needs to be here to buy, and they're like starting right here. And as a newer agent, you may not be able to get them all the way that high. And actually, the certainty ceiling can lower if they feel more pain and they feel that the need builds. So like I feel a newer agent may have trouble getting to that point where they hit that threshold to buy. So I encourage a lot of newer agents to follow up, and they'll consult me before and their coaches before. Hey, should I follow up with this person? But you just may have to follow up to build some of that. So I what do I do to not feel like I'm bugging too much? I'll send funny memes. I'll ask them questions about things we talked about. I take a lot of notes during the call, so I'll know things to like ask, but I'll keep it kind of about the sale. Um, I mean, I know some people that get a lot of sales on follow up, and I know other people like Dana who won't call close. Like a guy who works here, he's had like a 40,000 AP week. He will not follow up. He like almost refuses to follow up unless they're a sold client. There's someone else who writes a lot of business too. It was like most of their sales are follow-ups. So it's.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, I do have one agent that does a lot of business with follow-up. So I think you're right. It does have to do with the actual agent. But I think if you are doing a lot of follow-up, you're leaving a lot of room for someone like me to come in and steal them away from you.
Yeah, I
So you
agree.
want to try to get better at closing them sooner rather than working on your follow-up skills.
Yeah, and honestly, the biggest solution to that is to like get more leads. And I know I hate saying that, I hate being that guy, but when you have a lot of leads to call, the follow-up isn't as big. But if you're buying leads and you only have a certain amount to work, then yes, you're gonna have to do a lot of follow-up. If you don't have that money to just go buy more, you have no choice but to follow up. And honestly, like I mean, hey, be annoying. Like, don't call people 50 times a day, but call them in the morning and in the afternoon. Like Dana said, I've had it happen where I've had to follow up, and then someone like Dana comes in and makes the sale, and they're like, "Oh, I bought it earlier today." I'm like, "Dang, I called you for like 3 days in a row, you didn't answer." You know? Earl. Okay. I'm willing to put more in as I earn money. Do you think that's a good start? Will you train us on? Yeah, Earl. Well, when you get started, man, we'll get you going on how it's
There were
system.
some
Yeah.
questions above his
Oh, I didn't see
thing.
that. Oh,
Um,
what kind of automations do you have set up? Um, oh, I don't have any right now. I mean, we don't have any text message automations right now. Um, we just with so many agents, we don't like even want to touch the automated text message thing because it's just begging to get something to get caught up in the litigation somewhere and just be like
it's a
annoying.
scary place to live.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Um, so
Oh, I got
Eduardo's asking a follow-up question about, I need to check out your company before applying. I think that's still, feel free to answer, Justin. I actually want you to answer it, but for
yeah,
me, I still think it goes back to the same thing. There's still a trust gap
yeah,
that they feel you did not fulfill, which is causing them to want to do it. So where I'm hearing is that the mentality is I want to solve the objection. I want to solve the concern by having a solution at my fingertips rather than figuring out how to prevent getting that concern in the first place. That's a much safer way to live rather than always being on the defense and saying I need to be prepared for that objection because here's what I'm going to do because I already know he's done some things to build that credibility, but I almost think there's a lot more focus going on to I have to be prepared to get that objection rather than to figure out what to do to not even get it at all because I don't even remember the last time I got that objection.
yeah. That's it's true. And you want to reframe it so that you don't get the objection. And when I'll get it sometimes when I jump on to close a sale for an agent and I wasn't like the leading agent, right? So like they're on the phone with them for 15, 20 minutes and then myself or one of my coaches jumps on to help like assist in the rest of the way to close it. And what I like to say is something. Well, there's a tool you can use called Crankwheel where you can share your screen and you can walk them through a brochure. It sends a link to their cell phone, and they can click on it. Yeah, they can click on it, and then they can just literally look at the brochure on their phone. Another thing I like to say is in
Or even
general.
like your quoting screen, right? Like you can
Yeah.
share your e-app on Crankwheel and then they can like actually look at the health questions as you're asking them.
Hmm.
So just to pause, you can say, okay, at this point, I'm going to ask you the health questions. I'm going to send you a link to your phone. Go ahead and pull that up and we can look at the health questions together. So they're like literally looking at the application, which will automatically create more credibility on the spot.
Exactly.
The thought.
Yeah, for sure. That's huge. And if you do run into that, Eduardo, and they say that at the end, and you haven't used those tools or something, in general, something that I found works on about a third of the objections that I get is I say, hey, I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you a question. Does it make sense to you? Like, does the idea of a program like this make sense? And and at that point, if depending on how, because usually if they're like, I need to know about the company, it's probably that they don't know enough about you, I think, or like I would. People need to be sold in the company, but I think if someone's bringing up the company, I think they're just addressing like their credibility concerns with the agent on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I ask if they like the idea, and they're going to answer. Based on their tonality, I'll have an idea of how much they like it, and then I'll review some of the benefits, like two of the benefits, and just kind of paint a little bit more detailed of a picture of what it can do as a solution. And then I'll ask them, hey, like if I was your whoever the beneficiary is, right? Say it's their daughter. If I was your daughter, it should be weird, but if I was your daughter and I came up to you and I said, hey, mom, this is really going to help me when you pass, and I'm going to be in a rough situation. If I was your daughter and I came up to you and said that, and I told you about this, you'd probably be more likely to be like, yeah, sure, let's figure something out, whatever works for you financially, and I'll make sure that I take care of you. Am I right? And they usually say yes. And if they say yes there, then that means that it's the trust for you, right? Because it means their trust for you. If you were their kid, they would say yes. I don't need to know about the company, but like you use the objection. So if I was your daughter and I came to you and I was like, I really need this, you probably trust that would you trust that she had picked out a company that's credible and or that you were comfortable with, and would you trust her advice on this and just go and try to figure something out? Usually they say yeah. And I say, great, well, I can understand that. I don't have a track record with you, so let me reintroduce myself a little bit. I talk about myself for a little bit and kind of talk about how I care about my clients, my agents, and then I say, and at the heart of our company's success is those same tenets. We take care of our clients. We only specialize in final expense coverage. We don't sell 15 types of insurance. And then what I'll do is, so I'll resell myself the product in the company, and then I'll actually recommend that they go with a lower coverage amount. So like if we quoted 20, 15, and 10, I'll be like, hey, why don't you start with the 10,000 and increase in the future. If you want it, if you're more comfortable, you can expand from there. And you know that you're actually getting the ball rolling on this. Sound fair enough? And
I
then,
think what you just did, what I really want everybody to understand what you just did, is that you didn't even address the concern of I want to know who your company is, right? You didn't even address it. You just kind of like reframed it in a way to where it put them in a different mindset. You just restated the value, had them restate it, and then just offered a lower coverage amount instead of falling into the trap of, well, I work with Senior Life Services and we've been in business for X amount of years and this is how many
yeah,
people we've helped, and like focused on that, which isn't even their actual concern in the first place, right? What I think you did is perfect, and so I just want to make sure everyone knows that.
cool. Thank you.
Tim was asking me a question on what's one of the biggest things I learned from NEPQ to help increase my close rates. So definitely, if I had to pinpoint one thing, because NEPQ is is a great program, I would say the number one thing I wasn't doing prior to NEPQ was asking why questions, and not just taking yes no answers as face value and assuming I know what they meant by it. I would ask them, but why? Like, so why is that so important to you? Instead of saying, like, let me think of an example. So I imagine you don't want, your kids to have to come out of pocket and pay for these expenses if they didn't have to, right? And instead of them just saying, yes, of course not, and moving on, now I say, but why though? Can you tell me, why it's important? Like, what's going on with your kids right now that would make you think that they couldn't pay for it or wouldn't want to pay for it? And then that answer, that why answer, is only going to be valid because it's coming from them. And everybody's why answer is different. And it's not just about me hearing it because I'm getting leverage for the end. It's because they're saying it out loud themselves. And that's going to convince them ultimately and create additional urgency because they're telling me why they don't want their kids to have to pay for it. So I think that's the biggest thing I learned was the why questions, for sure.
That's huge. That's huge. I ask a why question. Some agents are scared to ask it, but
they're very scared to ask it. Yeah, because they assume it's obvious, but it's not obvious because everybody's reason is different. And it's about getting your customer to the point where they say it out loud and you make them feel uncomfortable. That's the whole point. Is you have to be uncomfortable enough to feel that tension. That tension has to build so much to where they feel dumb if they don't do anything about it.
Yeah, and one thing I ask a why question similar where I don't know if it's the definition of the why questions based on the NEPQ program, but I say now Betty, hypothetically, if you went to bed, heaven forbid, if you went to bed tonight and didn't wake up tomorrow, meaning you passed away in your sleep or tomorrow, walk me through your son's day. So walk me through, in other words, walk me through your son's day. I'll say it just like that, like I'll kind of like stumble on it on purpose to feel like they feel like I'm kind of timid to ask, so that it doesn't feel too forceful. And I'll say, walk me through your son's day, the day you die.
And then shut up.
And then shut up.
And then shut up, because what I'll tell you, what happens, a lot of agents do this, is they get uncomfortable when they ask an open-ended question, and then they immediately follow it up with multiple choice answers. Would he be able to do this? Would he be able to do that? Would he, and come up with all these answers because they're afraid of the silence. Like, it's okay to be silent. Your customer will come up with an answer, but that is answering the customer's question in the form of other questions is a huge mistake.
For sure, yeah. And they'll say it. If you're quiet enough, they'll say, well, I don't know. They say, I don't know. I say, well, what do you think it'll be like for him that day? And they'll say, well, it'll be tough. Like, do you know what funeral home he'll be at? And usually people know a funeral home in town, right? Or where they're going to go. And do you know a funeral home he'll be at? Yeah. All right. So now when he's sitting there with the funeral director and the funeral director says, I'm sure your mother was an amazing woman, but let's just get to it. And I know this, Betty, because my uncle's a funeral director, and this is truth. And he says, I'm sure your mom was an amazing woman, but let's just get right to it. How are you paying for this? So when he says that to your son, where's he going to get the money? And I don't say anything. And I found it works both ways, because if someone says, well, they have money, or they don't have money, you can say the same thing. So I say, well, as a mother, I'm sure you'd want to make sure that you could take care of this for him, though, right?
I say something different. Hold on, before you move on.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you say?
If they say they have it, or if they say, well, he has money, then I have to go back to the why, right? I don't ever want to make the assumption, like put words in their mouth. So what I'll say is, but do you want your son to have to come out of his own pocket and pay for these expenses again? If you could take care of that for him, well, no, I guess not. Okay, but why not? That's where the why question is very important. Okay, yeah. Because if you're assumptive and you say, but as a mother, you don't want XYZ, right? And they disagree with you, right? That's very different than you just asking the question, but is that really what you want? Like, do you really want that? And why don't you want that? Right? Then they came up with their own conclusions instead of me telling them and making them say yes.
I like that. That's cool. I like the different perspective on that.
Yeah, it's just like these little things is really what propelled me from like a 30% conversion rate to where I was really plateaued at, to like a 78% conversion rate on all conversations over 5 minutes. So it's all these little things that really matter to psychologically get in someone's head and make them come to their own conclusions rather than me doing it for them.
So if they say they have money, so would you want him to have to come out of pocket for this?
Yeah, so I already forget what you said that led him to, like, you were saying, walk me through what it looks like for your son if you pass away tonight. And you're at the funeral home, and then the funeral director says, how are you going to pay, right?
Yeah, where's he get the money?
Right, and your client says, well, he has money. That's what you said. Yeah. And then you say, okay, but do you want your son to have to come out of pocket with his own money and pay for that? I mean, that's why we're on the phone, right? Well, no, I don't. Okay, but why don't you? You have to challenge them.
Okay.
Gotcha. Why don't you? Yeah. Right? Because if you don't challenge them on why, like, cause that's an objection that you're getting right now. My son can pay for it. So if you don't cover that objection right now, it's going to rear its ugly head at the end when they say, well, I don't know, I'm going to talk to my son and see if he just wants to pay for it. But you already got them to say that she doesn't want her son to pay for it and why. So they're screwed.
I like that. That's huge. Because what I did, honestly, is I just assumed that, hey, if they have a maternal or paternal instinct, doesn't matter to me how much money their kids have, they would want to take care of this for them. And a question that I found helps, instead of saying, and it goes up because the question you ask, it pulls in a different direction. But after that, usually they say no, but either way, I say, well, look, if I can find a program that helps allow you to take care of this for him, and of course, assuming you can manage it financially every month, would you like me to help you see if you can qualify? So I found that is like, because I do the old school like trial close thing. I do that sometimes.
And there's nothing wrong with trial closes. I'm all about that.
Yeah, and I found saying, would you like me to help you see if you can qualify is better than would you like to apply for a plan, or would you want to get a policy?
I would never say, do you want to get a policy anyways?
Yeah. No, but I hear agents sometimes ask, like, would you want to apply? Would you want to get a policy? It's like, I found saying, would you like me to help you see if you can qualify?
Right. Or to make it even better, because I'm also big on not putting that focus on the product, putting it on what the product provides. So you could say, would you like to see if we can help you qualify today? Would you like to see if we can help you, qualify today too, so that you can, and then insert the reasons why they said they wanted it in the first place to kind of bring it full circle. I think that would make it even more powerful.
I like that. That's huge. Eduardo says, out of all the different metrics that an agent can track, which are the most important to focus and keep in front of you to increase policies submitted per day? I think how many presentations you make in a day. That's one of the most important metrics. Like, how many full presentations to the quote did you get, and then um, how much time did you spend training, and not just training, but apply training, because I see it. This is important. I see a lot of agents go through training with me, and then like on a call comes and it's like everything's out the window. So I think like applying that, but I think an important thing, if an agent wants to say like what's an important statistic for me to track every day, I would say how many presentations did you make to the quote. And,
I think that's a really important metric too, because if you don't have enough people to talk to, then that's going to be really difficult to sell, as many as you want to sell per day. So that's really important. I think being licensed in more states is also really important, so you can get more opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's huge. I always encourage new agents to get some states. And what I would do, so if anybody here is like gonna buy states, this is what I did when I started. I bought one state on a credit card, right? And then once I got a sale in that state, I paid it off and bought another state, and then got a sale in that state, paid it off, bought another state, and then I got 2 states, and then so that was a way for me to. It was a game for me. It was like I want more states, but I'm rewarding myself by paying off my card and then buying another one. So I don't know. I made it a game. What do you say if they ask you, or what do they say? Why are you asking all these questions for? Or what are you asking all these questions for? What does it have to do with life insurance? So I found that when agents get those questions, you may be asking random questions, but I think it's a lot in how you say the questions.
I agree.
Because like I have some agents in the beginning, so we asked who's like get the name of the beneficiary, and it'll be like I say it in a way where it's like, oh, you mentioned that your daughter would be the one taking care of your final expenses and your final arrangements if you were to pass away. Is that right? Say yeah. Then I say, oh, what's her name? So I'll say it like that. I'll be like, oh, nice. What's her name? And and some agents would be like, oh, and what's your daughter's name? So,
I totally agree with you. And you know what? That's one of the reasons why I just have people not ask for the kids' names in the beginning anymore, because I think more people are asking it in a way that comes off like nosy and silly rather than very interested in wanting to know. So I think it doesn't hurt to not ask, really, at this point. So just don't ask at all. At this point, I just train people to just refer to them as your kids until it's relaxed a little bit, the walls have come down, and then you can maybe ask a little bit later. But for the questions, like why are you asking all these questions and what do they have to do with insurance? So the first one sometimes people get, but the second one I don't really think anyone gets, because the questions all have to do with insurance. Right? Like, have you ever had it before? How long have you been looking? What have you found?
Yeah.
Like they're all very insurance related questions. But we always apologize. So, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend. It's just in order for, me to figure out if I can even help you, I just want to make sure that what we do is even a good fit for you. Otherwise I can make some good recommendations of maybe other companies you can call. Is it okay if I ask you a few more questions, right? So I'm always like dropping the rope and never assuming that I can help someone. And one of the biggest things that I always teach final expense agents to remember is that not all the leads that you're getting only want final expense coverage. And you have to remember that, because sometimes people have insurance needs that go beyond final expense. But if you're only paying attention or trying to box people into your perfect mold, you're going to miss out on like other things that are important to them, that even though you can't help them with on that call, you still need to reference it and be able to make recommendations for what they should be looking at in order to have those other things covered. Otherwise, they're just going to say, I need to think about it, and they're going to go look for someone else that can help them with everything.
Yeah, I agree. That's
sorry, that was kind of a tangent.
No, it's cool. I mean, it's important. It's how a lot of it's how you ask things. Like, you could take whatever script Dana uses, her magic spell there, and you could say the exact same thing. But if you don't say it in the same way, then you're going to get a different result. and at least I see for a script we have anyway. Like it's because you can have one agent, like everybody here at my team uses the same script. So why do some agents have
all have the
success?
same conversion rates.
What's that?
Why don't they all have the same conversion rates?
Exactly, and it's how they're asking the questions. And a big thing I see, which is a really big factor for me if I think an agent's going to do well or not, if we get on a role playing call and they're saying something off and I advise how to change it and they can't change it within the first they can't change their pitch and tonality in the first few times role playing, like, man, this is going to be tough, because you have to be able to mold your voice and to mold the way you say things and understand like the questions that you like, how you say questions and how you ask questions and say things are important, because if you ask a question that's going to result in a logical answer, you're going to ask it with a different tone than if you ask something that results in an emotional answer. At least that's for me anyway. I find myself naturally doing that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's not just about the way that you say the script. It's about how you react to people's answers, because everybody's going to have different answers. And do you have the knowledge to be able to step away from the script for a minute and and know that you might need to clarify on a few things that someone just gave you before you just say, okay, well, they answered that question, so on to the next one. Right? Like that's where your like strength and power in your script is really going to come to life, when you can really step away from your script and be able to take a deep dive into people's answers and clarify, probe, ask additional questions.
For sure.
That aren't on the script.
Agree. Yeah, because you can't put everything on the script, because people are going to have unique situations that you just can't have on. David Crocker is actually one of my agents.
Hey, David.
David's awesome. How would you approach a client who says they don't want to talk about or think about a loved one passing away, so they don't want to talk?
Is this like in the very beginning?
Dave, I don't know if you can clarify when this is.
It might. I'm going to assume you're getting this in the very beginning. So I would say, that's not uncommon, right? I would say, that's not uncommon. If you don't mind me asking, and I know this is a hard thing to talk about, what prompted you to inquire for information in the first place? So I'm going to figure out why they inquired, and I'm going to focus on that.
Cool.
Because if they was what I'll do, and this is not scripted, if I keep getting pushback, I'm going to become like mama bear for a second, and I'm going to say, look, I understand these conversations are hard and they're uncomfortable, and you probably don't want to talk to a million salespeople about life insurance. Like, I get it. But I also know that there's probably someone really important to you that you're worried about that might be left holding the bag if something happens to you and you were to pass away. Is that right? You don't have to tell me about him. You don't need, I don't need to know who it is, but is that a correct assumption? And they'll usually say yes. Okay. So knowing that, it really wouldn't make a lot of sense for you to just keep pushing us away, not get the information that you need, so you ultimately end up passing away with nothing. So if it makes sense, all I need to do is just help you figure out what solution makes the most sense for you, so that when you are ready to make the decision, you have the information you need to make the right one. And whenever that time is, it's totally up to you. And again, I make it sound like I'm not here to sell you, I'm here to help you. And that by itself will help people lean into you and trust you. And then they're going to end up buying, because they don't want to do this all over again. That's the approach.
100%. I love that. Like, before I even knew about a lot of sales techniques, and I was on and I would get these objections, I had a big shift when I would switch from being like, I just started when I got on the phone. I'm like, I just want to make a friend. Like, I just want to build a connection with someone. And when that happened for me, there was and what it really came down to is I want to make this about them and their issue, and not really about me, and like they're making it about their why, and really connect with them from a service standpoint, and that
seems like the theme.
It helps. Yep.
Well, we're an hour in.
We're good. I'm good. I gotta pack, and I got a week trip in front of me. But look, if you want Dana and I to do another live at some point, all you gotta do is watch this video over and over and over and over again. And then
you don't already follow me too, head over to my page at Final Expense
yes.
Telesales, and I post
Yeah.
lots of videos on there too.
Yeah, look, if you're not following my page, if you're following my page and you're not following Dana's, like, you're seriously missing out. She got some amazing content on there. She's a great leader. And if anybody on here is interested in potentially working with Dana, all you got to do is reach out to her. Final Expense Telesales on Instagram, YouTube, and you know, she'd be more than happy to hop on a discovery call with you to show you what her agency has to offer. Manuel, Eduardo, Andres, Dave, Tim, Earl, all y'all, appreciate you guys.
So many
And
questions.
thank you guys.
Bye.